This is interesting. Hong Kong wants residents to smile more, but experts warn prices and competition are bigger issues for tourism. And the Hong Kong government is encouraging frontline staff and residents to demonstrate good hospitality to help revive tourism. Well, I just came back from Hong Kong a few weeks ago, and I would say services and hospitality, not so good. Singapore, on the other hand, launched a national courtesy campaign, get this, in 1979, thanks to our late Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. Remember Courtesy Lion? Today's video is not about who's more courteous, a Hong Konger or a Singaporean. Rather, based on a request for a number of viewers, we want to do a few different selected categories in comparing Hong Kong and Singapore, such that people who are interested in working and living in Hong Kong or Singapore, or if you are not familiar with this part of the world, we would like to share with you our insights. It is going to be an open-ended comparison. There's not going to be a conclusion at the end about which country is better, but rather in the different selected categories such as the business landscape, the stock exchanges, the people, culture, the food, properties, tourism, and many other categories. We will break it down and let's compare. Before I continue, a little background about this channel. My wife Fran and I are early retirees since 2020, and we retired in Singapore and now residing in Penang, and we have created many cost of living and retirement videos around Southeast Asia and Asia. And in the cost of living and early retirement videos, we compare the cost in different categories, and you can refer to our past videos on Hong Kong and Singapore to do more specific comparisons. Just to note, these are merely our views on these two beautiful cities, and as always, do hit the like button and subscribe to join our YouTube channel so that we can create more videos like this for you. It is not surprising to see multiple comparisons between Hong Kong and Singapore simply because there are a lot of common similarities between these two cities. One of them being they were both ex-British colonies, which means a big part of their system still rides on the British system, whether it's about education, the governance of the country, or the legal system. As both are strategic port of calls during the colonial days, it's not surprising to see the international presence built up over the years, especially in the area of banking and finance. One key difference to note between the two cities is Singapore is a city and country by itself, while Hong Kong is part of China but is currently ruled with two different systems. Hong Kong has their own system and China has their own system. As two powerhouse financial hubs in Asia, Singapore and Hong Kong constantly competes to be Asia's top financial center, with the recent ranking of Hong Kong staying in 4th place, right behind New York, London, and Singapore. I believe it's fair to say that in terms of attractiveness and work opportunities, especially in the banking and finance sector, both Hong Kong and Singapore have equal opportunities for different foreigners, working expats who are interested in working and living in these two cities. So if you are a working expat interested in going to either of these two cities, be ready for a fast-paced, highly competitive environment which can springboard your career. Another reason why these two cities are powerhouses in the finance sector is because a lot of rich and wealthy are attracted by the low taxation, such that they will move their wealth into these two cities to build and preserve their wealth. That's evidenced by the number of family offices that are springing up in Hong Kong and Singapore that's managing the assets of the multi-millionaires and billionaires. On a side note, do note that there are huge competitors right at the back of Singapore and Hong Kong, like Shanghai and Dubai, which has a zero taxation rate and also attracting a lot of rich and wealthy individuals. Comparing the two city stock exchanges, the Hong Kong SE and the SGX, Hong Kong SE definitely has an edge, in my opinion, over the SGX. It says here in this recent CNBC article that Singapore wants to revive its stock market, and the city-state's economy may be larger than Hong Kong, but the total value of listed companies on the Singapore exchange is about 7 times smaller. One of the key components of any stock exchange is the liquidity, which is measured by the turnover velocity. In recent years, the Singapore SGX has been plagued by thin trading volumes and more delistings than listing. The turnover velocity at the SGX stood at 36% for the whole of 2023. In contrast, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange recorded a turnover velocity of 57.35 in the same period. Just to share a little, when I was trading futures in Hang Seng and STI, which are the respective indexes, the Hang Seng index goes around As they say, like a dragon, it's so volatile in one day, which means there's a lot of high trading volume, and for SGX is very, very slow. And when trading volumes are low, it means there's less interest and less retail and institutional investors that's vested in the exchange. Another reason why I say Hong Kong SE has an edge over SGX is there's a lot of Chinese behemoth companies that are listed on the Hong Kong SE, such as Tencent, Alibaba, Meituan, Xiaomi, Ping An, BYD, just to name a few. In contrast, the companies that are listed on SGX with the higher market cap, like the local banks, DBS, OCBC, UOB, at max have regional presence rather than international, like developers like CDL, Keppel Land, and of course you have a few internationally known ones like SE and Grab that are also listed on Nasdaq, but they are not as big in terms of revenue size compared to the one that origin from China that are also listed on the Shanghai Stock Exchange. So Hong Kong does have an edge over Singapore because it serves as a gateway for these huge Chinese companies who want to build on their international presence and be in the international arena. In terms of tourism, Hong Kong is actually struggling to rebuild its hospitality industry, especially after the pandemic. As of 2024, in terms of total visitor arrivals, it is still only at 60% of the level from the same period in 2019. One of the key challenges for Hong Kong to attract tourists to its city is because of the strong Hong Kong dollar and high prices, because in comparison between neighboring cities like Shenzhen and Guangzhou, Hong Kong is expensive, and one of the contributing factor is the Hong Kong's currency is pegged to the US dollar, which has helped the city's status as an international financial center, but in terms of price comparison to other Asian cities, it is more pricey. In comparison, Singapore sees tourism recovery in 2023 thanks to China, Indonesia, and Malaysia visitors, such that the visitor arrivals in 2023 has hit about 71% of pre-pandemic levels. In recent years, you can see that Singapore has beefed up on its marketing appeal to an array of international acts from huge international stars such as Taylor Swift, Coldplay, Blackpink, and a series of different acts like musicals, like comedies, all coming and flocking to Singapore. So in comparing tourism between Hong Kong and Singapore, Hong Kong does have a lot more challenges because they face a lot of human congestion and overcrowding and a lot of grumpy people as well. So Hong Kong actually needs to step up on its tourism efforts to attract more tourists back into its country compared to Singapore, which is actually on a very steady trajectory. Let's run a little comparison on the cost of living between Hong Kong and Singapore, specifically on the food and groceries. We have created a number of cost of living videos in Hong Kong and in Singapore. Do check them out, where you'll notice that we collect a lot of data on food and grocery prices on the ground in various categories in terms of street food, hawker food, in terms of mid-tier restaurants, cafes, as well as the Michelin-starred ones. In comparing the entry-level street food and hawker food, because there's an abundance of public hawker centers in Singapore, you can get a bowl of noodles, for example, for $3 to $4 US, whereas in Singapore, it will cost you more, at least $5 to $6 US for the same bowl of noodles. In terms of the availability of street and hawker food, there's a lot more options and choices due to the abundance of public hawker centers in Singapore when compared to Hong Kong, where there's less space and you have street corner stalls, but many of them are actually in air-conditioned Hong Kong cafes where it will typically cost more. Another comparison is the drink, where you compare a local coffee or a local tea will typically cost you $1 to $150 US. In Hong Kong, it will cost you at least $2 to $3 US for the same cup of Hong Kong milk tea. Just to qualify, of course, there's Hong Kong milk tea in Singapore as well. That's more expensive on a more level playing field in terms of milk and tea quality. But the difference is Singapore offers a more entry, low-level cost of tea and coffee that the locals consume regularly, whereas for Hong Kong, the starting price is at $2 to $3 US. In terms of artisanal coffee, it is about the same price for both cities because these are all foreign brands, so pretty much at the same price point. Likewise, for international cuisine, the prices are quite on par as both cities are cosmopolitan and have a high standard of living, so international food options are everywhere, Italian food, Japanese food, and they are about the same price point for both cities. In terms of food, groceries, and cooking at home, looking at the prices on the ground in both cities, I would say Singapore is at least 20 to 30% cheaper to cook at home with high quality produce, because similar to the public hawker centers, there's an abundance of public wet markets and supermarkets that sells high quality produce at a low price compared to Hong Kong, which has lesser wet markets and lesser supermarkets catering to the international crowd. Another thing to note is Singaporeans, in terms of their food preference and taste buds, they are already attuned to the international scene, whether it's Japanese food, Italian food. You will automatically assume Singaporeans will be cooking that kind of cuisine at home more compared to Hong Kongers, who may be more attuned to the Chinese and local taste buds. In terms of space and property development, Singapore definitely has an edge because it has more flat land, more space for development, whereas Hong Kong is hilly and has lesser area for development. The buildings are very tall, you're typically sandwiched in skyscrapers when you walk in between, and therefore it's difficult to tear down a building or a house and rebuild it. In terms of property prices, both cities are astronomically expensive in terms of per square foot, and for Hong Kong, of course, is the front runner. Although the prices have tapered down in the last few years, for Singapore, the prices of property is still steadily increasing and catching up with Hong Kong. What about rental prices? In Singapore, in the last 2 years, rental has been skyrocketing such that it's actually front-running Hong Kong for at least 15 to 20% more expensive. What about public housing? Singapore has a public housing occupancy of 80% and Hong Kong is 50%, but both cities have an issue of rolling out enough affordable public housing, especially for their youth, with Hong Kong having a bigger challenge there. In Singapore, the prices are hitting $1 million Sing dollars for HDB public housing, and that's something that the youth and the young adults should be worried about. In conclusion, both Hong Kong and Singapore are modern metropolitan cities that are foreigner-friendly and offers plenty of work opportunities and career advancement. They are both English-speaking, although if you know Cantonese, it will be an added advantage in Hong Kong. Both cities have a high standard of living, and in terms of salary and purchasing power, they are very strong in comparison to their neighbours, such that Hong Kongers and Singaporeans can travel frequently and still have savings left over in building their wealth creation. As some of you probably know, Fran and I travel a lot, especially to Asian cities. Would you like more comparison videos like this, where we compare the business landscape, the competitiveness, the people, the culture, the food, groceries, cost of living? Let us know in the comments below by typing comparison so that we can create more videos like this for you. We hope this video has given you insights to these two amazing cities, especially if you have intention to live and work in any of them. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. We appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to join our YouTube family, and see you in the next video. Hey, do join us for our free masterclass webinars where you are up your financial literacy, break out the corporate rat race, and gun for your financial independence. Do register for it now.